Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers, sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning to LL3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date is Thursday, February 25th, 2021. Yeah, so I'm at, just to let you folks know, I'm at downtown saloon located at 10 South New River Drive in the heart of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, right along the New River. Historical landmark. This area has been built in 1926, and right behind the courthouse and jail, Broward County Courthouse and Jail, along the southeast section of the Andrews Avenue Bridge. Whew, all right. Yeah, so just browsing around as usual. Got a few things I'm going to be talking about. Yeah, it looks like someone, one of the patrons here, some of my DRI shirts, they have seen that name in like 20 years. And it's really cool. So it's good to see the old school folks remember, you know, and three rotten imbeciles. Who am I? DRI. Absolutely. And yeah, so a lot of stuff's going on. It looks like one of the coaches that were with NASA committed suicide. He was accused of human trafficking. That's very serious. Piracy. And it looks like he took his own life. Just wondering how accurate that information is. I'm not jumping the gun, but it is disturbing. Human trafficking is very disturbing, my friends. A lot of it because of sex trades and all that. That's one of the big reasons about the illegal immigration issue is human trafficking. And even folks who believe in undocumented, open up the board, should never think about that. And I posted something like that on Facebook and my social media sites on an interview with one woman talked about human trafficking. She was a registered Democrat too. It was from the Epoch Times. It was a very good interview. And I'll tell people, I encourage you to check that video out. If you can find me on Facebook and Twitter, check that video out. Very interesting. And yeah, so before I start going here, there's announcements have been happening by Florida under. Let me see here. Florida United against mandatory insanity, and Isabel Edmonds from Newsbud. She presides now in Naples. It says here that Florida Coalition FUAMI will take over the Orlando sky during CPAC. And it just came out. Got it on Twitter, so I'm going to let everyone know. Florida Unites against mandated insanity and the business for the American way are launching FUAMI sky campaigns via charter planes throughout Florida. The first FUAMI sky campaign is scheduled for Friday, February 26th, through the CPAC in Orlando, Florida. The coalition aerial banner will counter Florida's Grim Reaper pejorative sky banner attack targeting DeSantis on Friday. FUAMI, Florida's Coalition for the American Way, with regional chapters throughout Florida, and a recently launched sub-coalition of Florida businesses for the American Way, has been a staunch and vocal supporter of DeSantis. Not only it does support the governor's determined defiance of insane, destructive, and un-American COVID-19 mandates, the coalition has been demanding that he go further and prohibit all local governments from issuing and implementing insane mandates. It's interesting because if you read Article 1, Section 18, is it Section 18? Yeah, administrative fines are considered illegal in our state of Florida. I'm going to look that up just to be safe here. So I'm not going to be blowing smoke up on anyone's rear end. But based on that, because the whole thing is you got a lot of folks don't even know their own state constitution. And that's not good. You got to always learn these things. That's our duty, especially as registered voters and residents of our state. No matter where you live, you should always learn your state constitution. Believe it or not, I was reading some of the stuff too from the California Constitution is very good, by the way, but the knuckleheads, they have a lot of knuckleheads in there, regards to state or local, don't know how to implement it, don't know how to, they're a bunch of oath breakers. And you guys out there have the opportunity to really counter it. Don't just stand there and do nothing if someone could do something. But everyone's worried about getting backfired and backlashes and all that. So, yeah, I'm gonna look this up right now. I believe it's 18. There's a few sections they do violate, and I'll get back to that. So, one moment here. Ooh, okay, Declaration of Rights, of course. I think it's 18. Let me see here. Yeah, I'm just sorry about that. I should have done this before. Should have had to set up before doing my show. So, very, like I said, it's very good stuff here, and people need the right to know these things. Yeah, administrative penalties. No administrative agency except the Department of Military Affairs in an appropriately convened court-martial action as provided by law shall impose a sentence of imprisonment, nor shall it impose any other penalty except as provided by law. So if you see these little mandates, you see like in a few counties, Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach, you can go to jail, you can get fined. That's totally null and void. Due process, property rights, it all violates that. So I'll continue on here. And it says here, I'll go on. We love and support our governor as facts on the ground and records make crystal clear DeSantis' brave defiance of insane COVID-19 mandates and his refusal to issue statewide mandates such as lockdowns and masks have made Florida the best, healthiest, and most prosperous state in our nation. States Isabel Emmons, founder of FUAMI, not only do we support our governor, we want him, urge him, and him go further by issuing an urgently a needed addendum to prohibit many misguided and ill-informed elected local government officials from issuing insane mandates that are geared to destroy our people and bankrupt our hard-working businesses here in Florida. And I did share some of the information on that, especially with resolutions, okay, local resolutions and all that. Broward County, Achula, Tampa, and I believe there's like 3 or 4 out there. But it is right there on his face. So this is why, like even though this bogus mandates they try to have down here, it's irrelevant. And don't get me wrong, I'm not telling anybody, look, if you got the symptoms, if you're sick, if you want to wear a mask to do it, to protect others, of course, there's nothing like that at all. But when you're going to try to make it into a fear factor, that's what I question. And I got people I know who passed from COVID-19 myself. And some folks assume that I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I do a lot of homework in these areas too, just to make it myself clear. So as it continues, it continues here. 2 weeks ago, the coalition launched its public petition urging DeSantis to issue an addendum to the Executive Order 20-52 and prohibit all Florida County Commissioners and City Council members from issuing and implementing any and all mandates that would impose lockdowns, capacity restrictions without meaningful compensation to affected businesses, which is Article 10, Section 6 of our state constitution, impose curfews on citizens, require wearing masks, require social distancing, require vaccines of any type, or impose school closures. FUAMI's new outreach and action campaign is joined and supported by FAW, a new sub-coalition made of small to medium independent businesses registered in Florida, working together speedily to put an end to the highly damaging and bankrupting mandates. Edmonds hints at an innovative statewide outreach and action plan being undertaken by the coalition and its businesses partners that sidesteps traditional channels. Our FUAMI's Orlando CPAC aerial campaign this week is just the beginning, with the billionaires-funded media and partisan tech giants censoring and canceling the true voices of our Florida majority. We're planning to implement the most out-of-the-box and effective campaign methods and outreach in the history of our Sunshine State, and with that, will render them all moot and irrelevant. They have a handful of billionaires. Well, we have thousands of hard-working, independent American businesses, the backbone of our nation's economy, on our side. Together we can, and unite, we certainly will win. On Friday, February 26th, between 1 to 4 p.m., FUAMI Orlando members and volunteers will gather near the CPAC entrance at the Orlando Hyatt Regency. So if you're in that area, folks, I encourage you to support them as much as possible. You can hand out flyers. You got to bring your megahorns. Go ahead. I'm pro free speech, but as long as you're not on that property, you'll be okay. So, do it in the public area within that vicinity. You'll be in good shape. Florida Constitution, Article 1, Sections 2, 4, and 5 guarantees that. Basic rights, free speech, peaceably to assemble. No questions asked. Anything else they try to shove down your throats by the state and local level is null and void. So the city of Orlando, Orange County Sheriff can't do a confounding thing about it. Sheriff's job is to protect your rights under oath, Article 2, Section 5. So there's no argument whatsoever. They can do whatever they want. But people, I know this organization will do a fantastic job. I'll leave the website on there, which is FUAMI.org. You can join, petition, donate, and go on their mailing list. It looks like they still need some folks in the southeast region, which is Dade, Broward County, Palm Beach, Monroe, etc. So if people get involved in that would be awesome. Me, I might just have to pay her a visit, when I have that chance, and just talk to her a few things. So that's why doesn't matter what your political views are, but if you're actually pro-liberty, especially 10th Amendment, you should support this organization. And so I'm going to leave it at that, and that is important. So next one here is reference to the Equality Act, and LifeSiteNews.com, which looks like they're banned from Facebook, and looks like that stuff off of YouTube. So I'm going to throw information what they're saying about this. It says here, U.S. House passes pro-abortion Equality Act to write transgenderism into civil rights law. And it says, so this is by Claire Charity. So it says here, the U.S. House, it came out today, the U.S. House of Representatives voted 224 to 206 today to pass the Equality Act, which would write transgenderism into federal civil rights laws, compel medical professionals to commit abortions and transgender surgeries, and extend taxpayer-funded abortion on demand. On occasion, congressional leaders will purposely misname a piece of legislation to disguise its true intention. The Equality Act is the epitome of this misrepresentation, said Representative Vicky Hartzler, Republican from Missouri, who voted against the bill. Should this bill become law, the well-being of our children, the role of parents, the privacy and safety of vulnerable women, the competitive edge of female athletes, the livelihoods of charities and businesses, and the integrity of our healthcare system will all be jeopardized. And that is just the tip of the iceberg. 3 Republicans voted for the conscience-crushing legislation. Representative Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania, Representative John Katko of New York, and Representative Tom Reed of New York, all House Democrats voted in favor of it. We are witnessing the greatest assault on religious freedom, biological reality, and parental rights ever seen in the U.S. Congress, reacted Tony Perkins, president of the Family Research Council. act demands that faith be quarantined within our mind and says that where it must stay. However, Bible believers cannot set God's word aside to bow before the Equality Act. Abortion funding, crackdown on religious institutions, demolition of women's sports. This Trojan horse legislation makes mockery of equality by enshrining a right to abortion, the greatest violation of human rights today, commented Marjorie Dannenfelser, president of the Susan B. Anthony list, catering to the most extreme elements of the abortion lobby. The bill's definition of sex discrimination equates abortion with pregnancy and childbirth. If Democrats succeed in rolling back even modest pro-life protections, health workers and institutions will be forced to participate in abortion. So we can say involuntary servitude, according to this article, right? Absolutely. It's based on what they're saying here. To the bill, which the Catholic leads Bill Donahue called the most comprehensive assault on Christianity ever written into law, would be used as a sword to prosecute those who do not embrace new sexual and gender ideologies, said Ryan Anderson, the president of Ethics and Public Policy Center. Also noted the Equality Act sacrifices the equality, safety, and privacy of women, while privileging men who identified as women. If this bill becomes law, they have to be a civil right to spend the night in a battered woman's shelter, disrobe in women's locker rooms, and complete on a women's sports team, even children at K-12 public schools. I'll just say it this way. People have that right, okay, as adults, if they're going to make these decisions, you can do that as long as you don't harass others or violate. I'm not going to pay tax. I'm not going to watch out my tax dollars go to something that they want to consent. Forget about that. And I say that in good faith. I don't condemn anyone that are adults or to make these decisions. All right? Is this But if you're going to join women's sports teams or be in a women's league and events, start your own damn division, damn league. All right? And that's not being transphobe either. It is a war on women, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to track and all that, and MMA. I will have to say that. Start your own league in these facilities and take it from there. All right? I had to put my 2 cents in. Religious institutions fare no better. Continued Anderson, religious schools, adoption agencies, and other charities would face federal sanction for operating according to the basic biology and mainstream biblical teaching on sex and marriage. Outrageously, this act exempts itself from the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. I'll say this. Any of these facilities are 501c3. I would say burn them. Burn them. Especially in the churches. Burn them. All right? To me, they're illegal anyway. And send it back to Lyndon B. Johnson. So his grave. Send it back to his grave. He supported that crap. Leo Rose, founder and president of Live Action, called the Equality Act a club to punish dissent. As has been noted numerous times by now, this legislation would be devastating for women's rights, forcing female athletes to compete against biological males and opening private women's spaces to men, including bathrooms, locker rooms, and shelters, said Terry Schilling of the American Principles Project. The bill would need 60 votes to pass the U.S. Senate unless Democrats change procedural rules and nuke the filibuster. Republicans could have done this in 2017 when they held the House and Senate and White House and thus easily enacted sweeping pro-life and conservative reforms, but they did not. Eliminating the filibuster has been a long goal of the far left, though just days ago, pro-abortion representative Pamela J. Powell, Democrat from Washington, tweeted, "If we don't get rid of the filibuster, some Republicans could block progress on the Equality Act." Interesting there. So, and I'll tell you this: I was reading the referendum on this. It's a big, huge federal overreach. Okay, big, huge federal overreach on here, and it goes through some multiple areas. All right. And, I can hit a few places if I want, but and that actually interferes with section 2, okay? Subsection A, like 4 here. Women also have faced discrimination in many establishments, such as stores and restaurants, and places where establishments can provide other goods and services, such as entertainment or transportation, including sexual harassment, differential pricing for substantially similar products and services, and the denial of service because they are pregnant or breastfeeding. So that's like more federal intervention here. And they make claim is consistent with the 14th Amendment. And right here on subsection 10 of 1A, I think it is, or 2A, yeah, 2A, excuse me. Discrimination by state and local governments on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity in employment, housing, and public accommodations, and in programs activities receiving federal financial assistance violates the Equality, Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, and many circumstances of discrimination also violates other constitutional rights as well as those liberty and privacy under due process clause of the 14th Amendment. So they only use the incorporation doctrine on this matter. But when you really read this, it's very dangerous. Conscription, involuntary servitude, 9th and 10th Amendments. So they're trying to do across the board on here. Establishments, funeral parlors, gas stations. Yeah, it is public education, federal funding. Yeah, I could go on and on, but yeah, it's very I am not really too pleased. And here's another thing too: if it does this federal overreach on state and local jurisdictions, that's a 10th Amendment issue. That's a fact on that. And I'm expecting a lot of states to nullify this. I don't blame them one bit. So if you're gonna make your claims on this, and you go, yeah, it does contradict the 9th, 10th Amendments, and the right, of course, 9th, 10th Amendments, and even your state's common law. Florida's statute is Chapter 2.01 on the Florida common law. So a lot of discrepancies. Too much federal overreach. You have the anti-commandeering doctrines too, so it can be used. Hey, the knuckleheads, the politicians could use sanctuary cities, use anti-commandeering doctrine on that. You can do the same thing. Give them a taste of their own medicine. So, to me, it's more of an inequality act for women, as far as I'm concerned, and it's not being a transphobe either. All right. All right, so I'm going to do one more here. This is in reference to Ashli Babbitt. And what Ms. Babbitt does here, it says here, Ashli Babbitt killing Shrouded and mystery officer who shot her is in hiding for his own safety. That's what Paul Sperry has to say about this. All told, 7 people died in connection with the U.S. Capitol riot on January 6th, but only Ashli Babbitt's death was directly caused by violence that day. She was a rioter killed by the Capitol police officer who fired only one shot by any person during the 4.5-hour siege. Yet the story of who he is and why he opened fire remains shrouded in mystery. More than 6 weeks after Babbitt succumbed to a single gunshot wound to the upper chest, authorities are keeping secret the identity of the officer who fired the fatal round. They won't release his name, and the major news media aren't clamoring for it. In stark contrast to other high-profile police shootings of unarmed civilians. The secrecy has ruled internet reports misidentifying the shooter as a Capitol special agent previously commended by President Trump for bravery. The false rumors have triggered threats against the officer. Drawing on interviews with informed sources and available documents, Rear Clear Investigation has put together a portrait of the actual shooter and the shooting, which some describe as completely justified and others called murder. The officer who opened fire on Babbitt holds the rank of lieutenant and is a longtime veteran of the force who worked protective detail in the Speaker's lobby. The highly restricted area behind the House chamber, sources said, an African American, he was put on paid administrative leave pending the outcome of an internal investigation led by the Metropolitan Police of the District of Columbia, which shares jurisdiction with the Capitol Police. The Justice Department is also involved in the inquiry. The Wall Street Journal reported earlier this month that the officer has been interviewed and cleared from criminal wrongdoing by a preliminary investigation suggesting that the police killing may soon be ruled justifiable homicide. But D.C. police spokeswoman Alania Gertz told RCI this case remains under active investigation. The well-placed sources told RCI the plainclothes officer has gone into hiding out of fear for his safety. He said he worried about reports that some of those arrested in the riots have declared open hunting season on whoever killed Babbitt, now the martyr in their cause. Twitter accounts have created her name, including "We Are Ashli Babbitt" and "Justice for Ashli Babbitt." The unarmed American patriot was murdered in cold blood. We need to know who murdered Ashli Babbitt is a hashtag for that. Proclaimed one recent post. Meanwhile, numerous lawmakers from both parties have hailed the lieutenant as a hero who saved lives that fateful day. Most of the circumstances that led to his actions are still unclear, but video footage filmed by rioters show the lieutenant, after taking up a defensive position in a doorway, carefully aimed and shooting Babbitt as she tried to climb through a smashed window beside a barricade double door leading to the Speaker's lobby, a part of a pro-Trump mob of protesters. Babbitt, 35, had no weapon. She died later at a hospital. The decorated Air Force veteran who had traveled from San Diego was wearing a Trump flag as a cape when she was shot. Dressed in a black suit and white shirt with cufflinks, along with the beaded bracelet on his right shooting hand, the Capitol police officer fired at her from the side of the barricade, where he had been hidden from view in a doorway. At least, from what can be seen from the video, he appears to issue no commands to stop, nor any verbal warning that he would shoot. I've seen that video myself, a couple of videos from that horrific incident. This was an execution, said Jack Feely, a fellow Air Force vet in front of Babbitt, adding that it breaks my heart to know millions of people watch my friend be executed live on television. A former national security aide and Pentagon official agreed the officer appeared trigger-happy. It was an assassination. I've never seen a more clear case in all my years. I've seen EJKs that were cleaner than that, said the former official, referring to the extrajudicial killing or state-sponsored killing outside the formal legal system of the country. He stepped into it, the shot, for the expletive deleted sake. But appearances are deceiving, countered the lawyer from whom the Capitol officer has hired to defend himself. In an RCI interview, Washington attorney Mark Shamel said his client did in fact warn Babbitt and other rioters to keep back, and that he did so firmly and repeatedly. It's a false narrative that he issued no verbal commands or warnings. Shamel said he was screaming, stay back, don't come in here. He added that the witnesses' statements backed him up. Shamel explained the lieutenant commands were not to pick up video on the video because it was recorded on the other side of the door, where dozens of rioters were shouting and banging against the door and drowning his words out. And he said it, excuse me, he said that his client could not be yelling out the instructions because of his mouth was covered by a mask and he wore part of the COVID-19 project's protection. Excuse me. It is not clear if the officer in fact warned the marauders breaching the barricade if he would shoot. He did not heed his commands. However, his service weapon, a .40 caliber Glock semi-automatic handgun, was visibly drawn. Some of the rioters spotted it through the lobby windows and shouted, "There's a gun," followed by, "He got a gun." Shamel and his client, who received the training primarily at the federal law enforcement training centers in Glencoe, Georgia, was acting to protect himself and lawmakers from harm. He was acting with his training. He said lethal force is appropriate if the situation puts you or others in fear of imminent bodily harm. Added Shamel, there should be a training video on how he handled that situation. What he did was unbelievable heroism. So some controversies on that. He spotted a potential massacre. He pointed out the officer was a potential last line of defense between the rioters and dozens of members of Congress and staffers who he said had yet to be escorted out of the House chamber by security at the time. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and other VIPs have already been evacuated. The Speaker's lobby is a hallway that runs behind the chamber and leads to exits on both ends. So the doors where the mob had gathered, which were manned by the lieutenant, served as a strategic choke point. Before the arrival, the officer had piled tables, chairs, and other furniture from the hallway in front of the door to create a barricade. He stopped them from coming through to the hallway and into the chamber. Shamel said he stopped a potential massacre. Oklahoma Republican Representative Mark Wayne Mullen, who witnessed the mayhem from behind the barricade, said although there would be questions about the officer use of deadly force, he did have a choice at that time. They were trying to come through the front door, which is where I was at in the chamber, and in the back they were trying to come through the speaker's lobby. That's problematic when you're trying to defend two fronts. Mullen said on ABC's Good Morning America, where they broke the glass in the back. The lieutenant was there. Him and I already had multiple conversations prior to this, and he didn't have a choice at that time. The mob was going to come through the door. There was a lot of members and staff that were in danger at the time, and when he drew his weapon, that's a decision that's very hard for anyone to make. And once you draw your weapon like that, you have to defend yourself with deadly force. Unfortunately, Mullen said Babbitt was the first one to come through the door, and the officer had to make the split-second decision. Tragic as it was, his decision to shoot The first rider who breached the barricade was effective at stopping the rest of the mob from advancing. No other rider followed after her. Some critics argue the lieutenant panicked and should have waited for backup before firing, but those briefed on his account said he believed he was alone and with no chance of assistance. He maintained he was not aware that 3 uniformed officers posted on the other side of the doors and did not know that a SWAT team armed with assault weapons and tactical gear was moving to replace him. Also, officers said he heard reports of shots fired in the building earlier during the upheaval and feared that the rioters on the other side of the door had guns, but it turns out the report were an error. The sound of glass being broken had been mistaken for gunfire. No other shots were fired that day. He told investigators he heard reports that pipe bombs had been found elsewhere in the area and worried about that the rioters might be carrying explosives. Babbitt was wearing a backpack, which allegedly compounded his fears. The lieutenant also said he believed his own life was in danger. It is not clear why he decided to stand his ground rather than retreat and seek out reinforcements. Well-armed service agents were standing guard nearby the House chambers. In contrast, another Capitol Police officer, Eugene Goodman, retreated when confronted by a horde of rioters in the stairwell, joining up with other officers who together defused the situation. He was rewarded with the Congressional Gold Medal for his actions. Ashli wasn't a thug. All right? So let's see what I have to say here. Reviewing the shooting, investigators are examining whether the lieutenant used excessive force and will also determine whether he willfully violated Babbitt's constitutional rights, both of which could bring criminal charges. Chamel said he expects the investigation will find his client when he refused to identify by name, free from any wrongdoing. 1,000% he'll be clear, he said. If he's not clear, we don't have a country we want to live in anymore. I don't know, that's what he said. That's what the other side had to say about that. A Joe Biden donor, Chamel, also happened to represent Igor Danchenko, the primary subsource of the discredited Steele dossier on Trump. It is not immediately clear if Babbitt's family is pursuing civil action against the police, including a wrongful death lawsuit. Chamel said the family has not contacted him directly or through a lawyer. Attempts to reach Ashli Babbitt's husband, Aaron, and other family members were unsuccessful. In an interview with the Boston TV station, however, Babbitt's cousin-in-law that Ashli should not have lost her life. Ashli wasn't a thug. She wasn't a rioter. Ashli was a peaceful person, said Justine Babbitt. She did in 14 years in the military. She was not there to destroy the Capitol building. She was there to be heard, to be part of the movement. Ashli was a diehard patriot, not a Democrat, not a Republican. She was for the people. Ashli carried out around the Constitution, the Bill of Rights in her pocketbook. Justine Babbitt added that she's waiting to learn more about the shooting and why it happened. I don't know who's responsible for Ashli's death. She said, I don't know how that took place. I don't know how that cop responded. I don't know. It is not fair for me to speculate. In another interview, Ashli Babbitt's husband made a point to say she was unarmed. She didn't have any weapons on her. I don't know why she had to die in the people's house. He told San Diego TV station she was voicing her opinion and got killed for it. The lack of transparency in the case had fueled internet speculation about the shooter, leading the case of mistaken identity. Some conservative websites have falsely identified David Bailey, the black Capitol Police officer who in 2017 heroically shot and killed a Bernie Sanders supporter after the shot. Representatives Steve Scalise and other Republicans practicing on a congressional baseball field. Comparing the video footage and photographs, the website notes that Bailey was a beaded bracelet on his right wrist, like the officer who was seen shooting Babbitt. The multiple authorities interviewed the RCI Special Agent Bailey, who was currently still assigned to Scalise protective detail, did not shoot Babbitt and is not the subject of any investigation. They said the 35-year-old Bailey, who was rewarded the Medal of Valor by President Trump, was suspended and retained the title of Special Agent. The original came from the Real Clear investigation. So, so you gotta see how far this thing goes. And some people may disagree of them going into the federal buildings. They should have went on the state and local level. But like I said before, I still believe it was a socially engineered event. I say by false flag doesn't mean no one died. Okay, so don't even think about it. I knew it was done by design, but I observed, especially by citizen journalists, they rule. I love them, and I'll still talk about it every time. And a lot of questions need to be answered. A lot of questions. That's the thing. So some unfinished business needed to be resolved. It doesn't matter who it is, a Trump lover or hater, I don't care. It doesn't even count in my book. I do see a lot of contempt what's been happening with this. But the House of Representatives, they'll fast track everything. They'll impeach Trump the next day, which was illegal by any means. Another bill of attainder, and I'm not afraid to say it. We'll have to wait and see. And may Ashli Babbitt's soul remain forever free. I don't want to see this happen to anybody, even my enemies. Alright, that would be it. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share through your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, and things interesting you want to check out, whatever you do, please send a correspondence to Decorum. Furthermore, I'll leave the footnotes of these articles on my Spreaker page. And if you want to contact me, you can hit me at LookYLucky03@protonmail.com. And if you want to donate, you can hit me at paypal.me or cash.app/3. I encourage if you can support FUAMI, LifeSite News, the Epoch Times, please, that would be great. Subscribe, donate, that would be beautiful. Hey, we're all doing this on the name of principle. We're not here to take advantage of anyone. Alright, so once again, thank you for your time. But always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love. And may your guardian spirits be with you.